this isn't ever going to get me to the goal of killing these in the liver, so I can do this experiment. And that's when I decided to take the course, the naturopathy course. And I had to study books on massage and reflexology and diet, and there was a course in herbs. That's really what I thought I wanted to get into. But when I opened the cover of the book, it was so repulsive. I could hardly get past the first paragraph. The language usage was archaic. That turned me off. And the whole concept of having an illness because you were the grounds for it instead of catching it from somebody else was so benighted, it looked like to me, that I could hardly get to the second page. But I had a pressing project. I wanted to do this experiment pretty badly, and I tried to just swallow my indignation and carry on. And now I love the book. I see a lot more truth in it than anything clinical I ever read about these different diseases. But more than that, I found that they were right. And if you have read the section on the common cold in this book, have you read the section on the common cold? You see how very complicated it is and how they knew a lot more about it in the past than we do now. Right now, you'll go and get an antihistamine and a cough suppressant, when we know nothing about it, and our doctors know just as little because that's what they use for themselves. And we've wasted all these years, 100, 200 years, wasted them just throwing nostrums around without ever really trying to get to the bottom of what causes our diseases. So once I had found some herbs in the book, on this herb book, that I was wanting to try on this fasciolopsis in the liver, I saw how difficult it might be. Lots of herbs for the same problem. Didn't make sense to me. If there was a good herb that dealt with a problem, then why have any more? That one would be good enough. But I realized that it doesn't really work like that. We know so little about herbs, thank goodness, that you really have to combine a bunch of herbs in order to be more certain of an effect. And of course I had a good monitoring system, which is a synchrometer. I could see exactly what the outcome would be of anything that I would try. And I was lucky. Pretty soon I had several herbs together that would kill the adult in the liver, but not the eggs or the other stages. But there was a helpful neighbor who came in one day, and I had already been researching cloves, ground cloves. And I didn't find it very useful. Sometimes it was useful, sometimes it wasn't. And I didn't want something so unreliable. But my neighbor came in, very astute person, but she was doing things like this. Yeah, and now I'll put this arm up. Yeah, take one, take two, take three. Just wasn't, to my liking. And she said, here, this one will work. And this one, just identical, would not. So I said, okay, I'll go back to it. And so I used what she brought and what she thought worked, the specific bottles, the specific capsules, and they did. I sure did have to eat a lot crow or whatever you call it, I sure did apologize to her. I said, I don't know what you're doing, but you're right, and therefore it works. And maybe I can learn it sometime, but right now I'm going to try and figure out what the difference is between the ones that worked and the ones that didn't. And by the time we had talked it over, the sources of each one, everything in great depth, I thought, one's fresh and the other's stale. Let me try that. And that turned out to be the key. And then, of course, it makes sense that the same capsule from one bottle works and from another bottle doesn't. And before that, it didn't make sense. And it taught me another lesson, as if I should have needed another one, but I guess we keep needing lessons somehow. And all our lives, we keep needing lessons. At least I do. And so that's how I finally put together an herbal program that kills all the parasites in the liver or any other tissue, no matter what stage it is, except one place, and that is in the bowel contents. And so that's as far as I got it. And by getting it that far, the cancer markers, CEA, HCG, and by then I was using a better one called orthophosphatyrosine. They all disappeared. And I was pretty excited. And I can say I was very happy. I thought, if this should really be true, this could be the end of cancer. And I'd talk to my children, and I'd talk to my friends, the judge, and they'd say, yes, and they didn't put me down. So that was encouraging, and you probably know the rest of the story. I had been trying it on cancer case after cancer case, and I thought I better start right now making a statistically significant group of patients. So I lowered the boom one day. Everything after this gets tabulated in detail. It made a lot more work for the office. Everything had to be tabulated in detail, and then about 3 months later, I discovered the same parasite was in all HIV cases, but it went to a different organ. Instead of going to the liver, it went to the thymus. Well, I thought, how coincidental. I mean, the thymus is where your T cells are made. That's where the problem is, and that's where these parasites go. There has to be some rational explanation, and let's try killing it, and we'll see what happens to the virus. How lucky can you get? The virus was gone. The virus disappeared. It's just a bucket of luck, you could say. But this time, everybody got mad when I told them these results. Now, the story about cancer didn't make people so mad. And of course, you know, this HIV stuff didn't make my 2 children and 1 judge mad, but it made everybody else that I told mad. And I really did not dare tell anybody. So I thought to myself, I'll just accumulate a whole bunch of records, right? Those that say HIV positive, which they bring in when they come, and then when we're done, I'll have them retested, and it'll say HIV negative, right? What could be more convincing? I mean, how could anybody in their right mind say this doesn't work? But it was a wrong strategy. I still hold to it, but it didn't convince anybody. And that taught me a tremendous lesson, that we're not at all rational. We're not at all rational.